Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Good day to you, wherever you are in the world. Today is the 28th day of October, 2020, the last Wednesday of October, and we'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mineral Talks Live, the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting to you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Svoboda, the president of Blue Cap Productions, and for today's show, we're headed to the Great White North. But first, a little bit about our show. Mineral Talks Live is a weekly webinar put on by myself, representing Blue Cap Productions, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez, representing the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou, representing the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP. And I'm so glad that I could say that quickly now. As usual, I'm broadcasting to you live from Honolulu, Hawaii, while Raquel is live from the other end of the country in Boston, Massachusetts, and, for now, Eloise is broadcasting Paris, France. We share this with you so that you understand that you're part of a global show here, so your participation helps to make this show what it is. How can you participate, you ask? That's a great question. Let me tell you. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of buttons. There's one labeled chat and another labeled Q&A. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. You'll see that many people like to fire off a hello in the chat when they first sign off. We love this, and it shows us where you're from. So don't be shy. Give a shout out to your city. Now, during the interview, our guests and I will be focused on our conversation and not really looking at the chat window. However, both Raquel and Eloise will both be very active in those chats, so look for their comments along with everyone else's. At times, either Raquel or Eloise may interject during the interview with questions that you're asking so we can get an immediate answer from our guests while they're still on the topic. Now, the second way to interact is with the Q&A function. This allows you to submit general questions that we'll try to answer at the end of the interview. So to recap, immediate questions, use the chat. General questions, use the Q&A. Finally, at about 40 minutes into the program, you may see a window pop up on the screen asking a bunch of questions for our weekly poll. These are questions we carefully curate for each guest. So come on, play along, and let's see how well you know our guests. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's move on with today's show. Today's guest is an earth science technician at Canada's largest museum, the Royal Ontario Museum, or the ROM for you cool kids out there. Now, what is an earth science technician and what role does such a person play? Well, that's what we're here to find out. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to today's guest, who also happens to be the current president of one of our sponsoring organizations, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, Katherine Dunnell. How are you, Katherine?
Great. How are you, everyone? Sorry for the mask, but we're in a public space, so, COVID, that whole shtick. Sorry.
Well, hey, safety is number one important, and you actually look fantastic. As I was saying earlier, we've got this whole kind of Arabian look with your beautiful scarf and the lovely ceiling that we see behind you. Tell us a little bit about that ceiling.
So this entire wing, we've had a couple renovations of the museum. Our first building was built in 1912. This one is the 1920s building, and it was built during sort of one of the waves of the Depression here in Canada. So it was 3 shifts of workers, 8 hours a day, using all of the building stone from Ontario to sort of stimulate the economy. And so we're fortunate that our gallery is in a building that has, walls and not in a crystal, which we have a Libeskind crystal that we just actually renovated 10 years ago that, was $234 million. So we love this old space, and I think our minerals look great in it.
Fantastic. Well, now a lot of us know you because we see you every year at Tucson, and you always put together a great display case for the TGMS show. Now we'd love to know more about you and your job at the ROM. So what exactly do you do as an earth science technician, and what's a typical day for you?
Okay, so, it's funny because right now at the museum, their sciences team is women for the first time in 105 or 6 years of the existence of the museum. Kim is our curator. Hats off to her for allowing me to do this today. She is the curator in charge of mineralogy and the chair. She does a lot of the research. She's got 13 students right now. As well, Veronica DeCecco is our lab technician downstairs. She runs all of the instrumentation and helps Kim in her research, but also does a lot of mineral identification with the equipment we have downstairs. And I, as the mineral technician, pretty much have to sort of put things away, loans, donations, gifts, grant funds. You know, we go to shows, we do public outreach. So I'm basically the catch-all for sort of the day-to-day movement of objects in the collection. And you have videos from downstairs, which we are located, I should say, in the third basement of the museum, which is really difficult for Wi-Fi. So I ran around yesterday and did some sort of behind the scenes kind of snippets for Brian to show what we've been up to in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, we've essentially got a massive renovation of our collection stores, which for museum people is super exciting. It's like getting the best storage in the world. And
well, it looks absolutely meticulous. And so looking forward to it. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Now, tell us a little bit about the museum and a little bit about its history briefly. And then I see you've got a wonderful showroom behind you, a gallery. So we'd love to go in there with you.
So, sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't get all of it.
Sure. Can you give us a little history behind the museum?
Oh, yeah. So we've been in existence. We're a colony, of course, of the Queen. We are still indemnified by the Queen, meaning that any exhibitions we have coming in, all of our collections are actually still insured by the Queen of England, which is kind of a weird thing.
Wow.
But true. Yeah, still. The museum opened in just to turn the century, 1910. There was one building that was built, and then add on. We were born out of the University of Toronto collections, and the University of Toronto is literally a stone's throw behind us. So there's always been this affiliation with research. Two of the eight original sort of collections at the museum were geologic collections. So we had the Museum of Geology and the Museum of Mineralogy. And like married people, the curators in those sections either loved each other or hated each other. So over the years in our ledgers, we see them divorcing and then coming together as one unit and divorcing and coming together. And so now we have everything under one umbrella. I deal with both geology and mineralogy specimens, and all of us work on all of that material under one umbrella now.
Very cool. Now, this is the largest museum in Canada, and I've said that many times in the promotion for the show. How many visitors do you get a year in the museum?
We topped about 1.4 last year, just before we closed down.
And I guess that's 1.4 million, not 1.4 people. Okay.
Yeah. And we're located in Toronto, which is the largest city in Canada, just under 4 million people. So we're the third largest city in North America, behind New York and LA. And our counterparts on the federal level, which is the Canadian Museum of Nature, is in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. And I shout out to the CMN because they just got a massive Mont Saint Hilaire collection, and we're happy for them. Go yay Canada! But people get very confused. They're like, "Oh, we've been to your museum and we loved Ottawa," and I'm like, "No, we're Toronto."
No, we're the other museum.
We're the other one, and they get the same thing. So it's important just to note that we're based in Toronto. We're a provincial museum. Canadian Museum of Nature is a federal museum, just like the Smithsonian, and they're based in Ottawa, which is about 4.5 hours up the road from us.
Okay, terrific, fantastic. So now, behind you is the permanent exhibit. Is that correct?
Correct. And so in my tenure here at the museum, I've built 2 permanent galleries, which is ridiculous to think about because permanent galleries, for the most part, are, a 25-year, 20-year life cycle. So
Did you write your name in the concrete somewhere where nobody can see it?
they wouldn't let us, of course. There's too many designers watching over everything.
Technically, you weren't allowed, but did you anyway?
No, I mean, our imprint is on some of the cool things that are in this gallery. I mean, this is really the time where you get to stop, focus on your collection, understand your highlights, and how are you going to bring those highlights to the public in a meaningful way, and for them to understand what's happening in this gallery. I think our resident time, which is museums speak for how long do people stay in your gallery, is about just over an hour.
Wow.
So it's pretty high for 7,000 square feet, and for a subject matter outside of the collector market that doesn't really get taught geology until they're in university. So it's a very, it's not like biology and chemistry where you're sort of immune to how these things work. It's something that people fall into a lot of times within the education system in Canada, which is odd because other than Australia, we're the second largest mining country in the world. So, it is a bit of a weird thing.
Now, you said that you get last year you had 1.4 million visitors. Are you able to tell how many are museum members versus how many are coming to the museum for the first time? Or I guess you can't tell that, but at least you can tell who are members returning to the museum versus people who are actually...
We have demographics on all of that. We have about 65,000 members right now who, come frequently. They're our invested audience. And family memberships are really an important part of our demographic. And our largest visitor group is families. So, you're always keeping that in mind when you're designing any space. So stroller friendly is a big part of our existence. And the knowing that people need different eye levels, like a 4-year-old toddler needs to have things at his level,
right,
as well as someone that is a little more serious, higher up. So, yeah, it's hitting all of our markets, and understanding those markets are part of our thought process when we build a gallery.
Terrific. Now, Katherine, can we go into the gallery? And although I'm sure we'd love to spend over an hour there, let's see how much we can view in the time that we do have.
All right. So as you walk into our gallery, the first thing that you're sort of confronted with is one of those swallowtail or fishtail gypsum from Mexico. And this entire gallery is a box that's based on a central spine, which is this sort of column right here. Everything on this side of the spine are either a genetically grouped specimens or geographically grouped specimens. So copper from Michigan is a geographic group, or pegmatites would be a sort of more of a genesis group. So on this side of the gallery, we're dealing with sort of environment. On this side of the gallery, we're dealing with good old Dana classification of systematic minerals. And I'm happy to go to both. We also in the corner here have a very massive meteorite collection. We have about just under 900 meteorites and probably the largest collection of rare Martian meteorites in the world.
Wow.
And a lot of that is research, and a lot of Kim's research is looking at minerals from space, which is exciting. But the thing with grouping minerals is, you can put things out, but the idea is why are all these things together? And making some sense out of this very sort of strange, for most people, the first time they think about minerals. This area here that I'm walking towards, and I'm sorry for the Blair Witch Project, is
I'm
dark.
so scared.
I know. It's dark right now because they're interactives, and we've been forced, obviously, by the province to sort of diminish our interactives. But this back wall right here that you see is 3 tons of rock from Hemlo, which is a gold mine in northern Ontario that produces on average about 8 ounces a ton. of gold. And if you get close enough, I have kids looking in this rock to see if they can see any gold in it at all. So the idea of this wall is to understand out of 3 tons of rock, you get a very small 1.3 ounces of gold coming out of this.
Oh, that's great. Put it in perspective.
It's for people to understand that mining is a really large scale process. And with that, there's a lot of bulk. And someone just said 8 ounces a ton is very rich, and I agree. It's been a prolific mine for a while. And I'm walking towards a really fun thing, which is a really big gold.
Now that's pocket change there.
That's we need a really big gumball machine for this. So it's from the Canadian Mint. It's 220 pounds of gold with a face value of $1 million. As we know, gold has gone up since COVID. So you can do the math on this. I'm not going to tell you how much it's actually worth, but it's worth more than the face value.
Well, I'm sure Peter McGaw is going to be really excited to learn that you're going to bring that to TGMS in 2020.
No, we can't travel that. He's seen it in our gallery. He comes every February or March. So he is here. He's been in our gallery. It was probably the last mineral person I saw before we locked down, unfortunately.
Okay.
Some of these pod cases are just highlight cases for the museum and for the obviously the section. These are fun, very sort of traditional dolomite, sphalerite, galena, MVT pieces. But what's great about these pieces is the fact that they're from Ireland, from Tipperary. So these are historic pieces from someone who lives in Kitchener-Waterloo that actually was a miner at this property in Ireland before he immigrated to Canada.
Now you showed us that during our pre-test this morning, and I was just amazed. It's like you look at them, you say, "Oh, very nice pieces," and then you mentioned Ireland. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Let me look at those again.
No, I know, right? The Elmwood Calcites, which we have everywhere. Terry Ottaway, when she was still working at the ROM, and Fred Wicks. I remember I had just been hired at the museum. They went down to Tucson, and all of these crates started to show up. And we had bought the entire sort of pocket of this material from one of the dealers, and it was crate after crate after crate of these honey-colored calcites. I just remember it was like Christmas. It was awesome. But this is a fairly big piece. There's my hand for scale.
That's amazing.
I'm going to head over to Canadian silver because I did see someone sort of comment that they want to highlight Canadian material. I will comment to say that we are an international collection, and so we have quite a few pieces not, this is my favorite case, secondaries and CMAB, sorry everyone, but this is probably one of my favorite pieces, this cerussite right here, the twin. This is actually from Prosper Williams, who was a South African who did a lot of mineral, obviously, dealing from South Africa, but also retired in Canada. So it worked out for us. We have some of our best material from Namibia from him. Probably the non-travelable wolfenite from Glove Mine. Glove Mine wolfenite. And this actually had its own seat on the plane flying back from Arizona to Toronto. I hate moving it. Let's just be serious. Like every time it shifts, wolfenite is delicate, and I'm always afraid this is the last time. But anyway,
does it have to carry its own ID to get on the plane?
Yeah, it never goes there. And this is something that we would love to be able to bring the best of the best down to Tucson, because we do have quite a big collection.
Fantastic. Look at that.
But there is a point in which we have to manage risk. We don't own these collections. The province of Ontario owns these collections. And with the mineral market the way it is, as we know, price-wise, some of these pieces we would, over a certain amount, we're actually not allowed to travel with. So, I always feel like, we're managing risk in a different way, because we have to. We would love to bring our very, very best stuff down to Tucson, but it just, for us, with the plane and cargo, it's just not feasible. I think everyone remembers a couple years ago when all of our stuff got seized at the border. So, it is a reality. And then you have a bunch of people who don't cut to minerals, pawing through your stuff, and you're just like, oh, this is a nightmare.
Yeah, the nice thing is that you guys do a lot of put a lot of effort into putting in wonderful cases at the TGMS, and so I would say people take that.
This has got to be one of my favorite pieces. This calcite from Michigan. So there's copper in the calcite, but there's been two waves of fluid flow in this. So the first wave of fluid flow, or the second wave, first wave I would assume, had copper inclusions in it, and the second wave of calcite did not. So it's kind of just shows you how dynamic these deposits are. This is all Michigan calcite, and of course some Michigan silver half breeds as well, which has been this deposit was obviously prolific, or was being mined at a time when the museum was actually a museum. And so what we find is a lot of the old world European stuff we have some of, but we're not deep in, and it's just because of timing.
Okay.
A lot of the copper skulls from that area. Bisbee was another deposit that we were pretty active in collecting, which seems very odd given that we're so far north, but it was also active at a time when we were a museum. It's one of my favorite pieces. So big, so luscious, so felty.
That's wonderful.
And some of the primary ore as well, which is important for these porphyry deposits to understand that the copper came from somewhere, and now it's also being used in a secondary nature. And of course, we can't talk about Canada without talking about probably the second most prolific mineral deposit in the world is Mont Saint Hilaire. I think we're up to about 440-esque mineral species identified. Other than Sumab, it's the second highest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I always call these, they always look like they've had a hard day, some of these minerals. They're spiky, they get stuck in your fingers. They've been on a slow cook. Sodalites and donnieites, and of course, sarandites. You try to think about how many actual minerals are orange. Not many.
Yeah.
And so sarandite is pretty, that kind of salmon color is pretty amazing. One of the things we do have at the museum as well, which I should mention, is this map right here. This is probably one of only about 25 maps left of this. This is the first geologic map, and I don't know if any of the viewers have read The Map That Changed the World. It's one of the William Smith maps. I know the Natural History Museum London, I think, has 3. There's one at the London Geological Society that's out. It's a great book. This is one that we had, of course, being a colony. And what's neat about this is the actual storage facility for this map is behind this. So the map is in here. This is a replica that we put out 11 months of the year. And we slide this out to show the real map for 1 month a year, because we don't want it to fade, because they're hand colored. So
what month is that you put it on display?
Usually through PDAC. So the Prospectors and Developers Association has the largest mining conference in the world in Toronto every year. So I see all of my mineral friends in Tucson in February, and then they all come back to Toronto in March, 3 weeks later, and groan about the weather, and come, and we usually pull it out. March is also when we have March break. So we sometimes do programming around this piece, but yeah, about a month a year under these sort of light conditions is what we're allowed to display it as. So it keeps its color for as long as possible.
And Katherine, for those people that are unfamiliar, can you tell us what area of the world the map depicts?
Oh, that's a great question. It's England. And so William Smith was actually, I think, a grave digger or a ditch digger. So he decided he was going to figure out and map the areas which were easier to do that in. No, it was a ditch digger. And from there, he produced sort of the first actually geologic map. it's really a neat book, and it's something that if people are interested, it is the map that changed the world. This is 1815, this map. So really neat.
So one of 25 in the world.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Minerals excite people for different reasons. And of course, this whole case is about color. As mineral collectors, you're going to hate me saying this, but the most photographed and clicked object in our entire gallery are these two pieces. It's this rhodonite right here from New Jersey, and this what they call Argentinian rhodochrosite that everyone clicks the photo and then posts that it's bacon rock.
I've heard that you're now spraying the scent of bacon from the top of the display, right?
But for people, they're always looking at things and always trying to associate what they look like, or how can they associate them with real life. Rhodochrosite, for the most part, is not part of our daily lives. And so for people, they're always trying to associate things. So for me and for all of us downstairs, when we pull these demographics up, we are always fascinated on what gets clicked, why people click things, what is fascinating about things. So if you go on our Flickr account or, on our ROM Images account, these kinds of things constantly get reclicked. And so it's always interesting to understand what people are thinking when they see things.
Well, Katherine, I'm going to give you a free idea here. I've just read recently that they have a face mask that every time you inhale it, you smell bacon, and there's actually bacon on the front. So I would suggest maybe the ROM get a bunch of those and put your logo on it and sell it in the gift shop.
Oh, bacon rock. Yeah. So I think it's funny. For me, it's people trying to make sense of something that is, nonsensical.
And honestly, it doesn't matter as long as they are engaging. Then you've won.
Yeah, I agree. And so whatever is fascinating for people and how they translate that is something that is always is better for us to understand as we're sort of writing text. These are Bisbee.
Well, this is great. You have stalactite and stalagmite. Oh, was that a stalagmite at the bottom, or I can't see what that is.
Both are, yeah. So it's all the Bisbee sort of slightly pale blue color because of the sort of secondary copper in them.
I love that exhibit.
Thank you.
I love that display. That's great.
We have preps here, and they are what I call the elves of the museum. I'm telling you that without them, there's 3,700 minerals in this gallery, and every one of them needed a mount. It took 18 months for our preps to make mounts individually for each one of them, but it also shows that each one of these minerals are at the best tilt, held at the best angle for how they're supposed to be viewed. And everything is custom. So it's almost like getting a jewelry mount for every object.
Wow.
Oh, sorry for the fast. And of course, we bought this. This is a great piece. This is before I joined the museum. It was Fred and Terry, I think, bought this off the back of a pickup truck in a parking lot in Tucson.
That's the true Tucson. That's the Tucson way.
Yeah, if there's pavement, it's too fancy. But this is right. This is a white pine piece, of course, and there's still, if we get close enough, there's still some obviously residual shale on them. People I can sometimes see them wanting to touch it. It's so thick in the gallery. There's not really, you would need some serious chiseling to get anything off that. But it's such a sculptural and beautiful piece. I always loved it. And the fact that, my first picture of it was on the back of a pickup truck is amazing too. Just makes it more fun,
Absolutely.
Colemanite, California. The thing with Canadians is we have a lot of big rocks with a lot of big crystals, a lot of rock forming crystals, which is what I hear Frank Hawthorne in my head. He goes, "You have tons of rock forming minerals." And I'm like, "Thank you." And I'm not sure if that's happy or sad. It is what it is. This is a goethite. This is actually from the Greek Larium deposits.
Wow.
It's a cast. It's really a beautiful piece. And so some of the things we've mentioned or sort of scrolled by are things that are, geography based, I'm happy to go and look at some of the systematics. This is a jadeite boulder that's been cut in 3 from Burma. This was bought in the 1930s from the jade markets. And you can, if you get really close in, you can see some of the nice chrome green stringers, which is what you want in jadeite.
Those are great pieces. I can imagine
Yep.
a lot of people reaching out and touching those. Very tactile.
Yeah, and you hope that they're not going to throw gum on them, right? Always a possibility. So part of our sort of heritage and the fact that Canada has become sort of a very prolific mining center is because our economy is based very heavily on base metals, oil and gas.
Uh-huh.
And so this is a whole area which is now dark, is on the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. So it really just shows people that everything here, chalcopyrite, we have abandoned iron formation, that's 2 tons from the Sullivan mine. This is pentlandite from Sudbury, from Inco, that a lot of our economy is based on just mining. And it's important for the Canadian economy. We do it in a sustainable, or try to do it in a sustainable way. And a lot of our mineral community is associated with the Canadian mining story as well.
Well, now you touch on an interesting thing. You say you do it in a sustainable way. Do you have people protesting in the fact that there is mining going on, and how do you respond to that?
It's interesting because Canada legislates mining federally. We're not like the United States where everything is state by state. So you have pro-mining states and non-pro mining states. Yeah. The Canadian government has eventually said in 1972, if you open a mine, you have to have the capital to reclaim the land back to its original state before you put a shovel in the ground.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. That's great.
So what ends up happening for legacy owners, so someone who might own a mine, sell it to someone else, and that legacy continues. So the capital at the end of project is they revert that mine back to its original state. So I've been walking around looking for abandoned iron formation up in Temagami, and then I realized all the trees are at the same height. And then you're like, I'm standing on the open pit is what I'm doing. Here I am going to go collect, and there's nothing to collect because it's all been filled in. So that's kind of what happens on a federal level. And that also happens when Canadian companies mine in other countries. So it follows us, as well. So there is quite a few guidelines around mining in Canada, and I'm sure people who work in the industry will be very vocal in your Q&A about all of it. But it's an important part of our heritage, and we understand that fracking and that kind of stuff doesn't happen here, thankfully.
It sounds like you're doing mining responsibly. Brian Lee's and the Collector's Edge operations operate much the same way you're describing the mining operations in Canada.
Yeah, and it is until the 1960s. It was the only stock that was traded on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and all major mining companies in the world have an office in Toronto. So a lot of our funding for our galleries, for endowments, for curatorship, all of that is in part due to the mining sector and supporting the mining sector, them supporting us. Mm-hmm. Kim has been a hugely active fundraiser as a curator, and in the last 15 years is probably fundraised close to $15 million for our section. So she's a fantastic fundraiser, and we're happy that she's out hitting the pavement.
Now we're seeing some great pieces in the footage that you're airing here.
Oh, thank you. These are all the systematic displays. So right now we're in the non-silicates, we're in halides. Obviously, some things are a little more problematic. All of these cases, I will say, if anyone is in the museum business, these are all Glasgow-Hahn cases, which are really the Cadillacs of cases. They're made in Frankfurt, Germany, and they seal perfectly. They all have hidden gaskets, so you don't, and entry points, so you don't know how to get into them. They have lighting, LED lighting. This lighting, actually, when we built this gallery 12 years ago, LEDs were just starting to come out. These are Japanese, and they actually needed to be Canadian certified for us to use them because they didn't they hadn't been certified yet.
Now, how tall are those cases?
These cases are pretty tall. I think they're 12 feet.
12 feet.
And they're
Wow.
all climate controlled as well. So, things like, sulfur and silver, of course, are always problematic to put on display, but we're in native elements right now, and you know that they're going to be together. So we have airflow in these cases to ensure that they don't sort of one tarnishes the other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well thought out.
Oh, Alan's very nice. This museum led the way in this. Yeah, I mean, it's, museum studies and sort of the sort of thought process that goes into planning a gallery is immense. And so you have to think about what's best for the minerals. You have to know what's best for the objects, the lighting, all of that. Museum studies stuff has to be taken into account when we plan a gallery. It's not just throwing a bunch of minerals in a case. So lighting has to be separate. You can see from objects, just in case you have a major bloat of a bulb, and that would be catastrophic to a mineral, right? So all of that climate or temperature differentiations in the case, and all of that has to be taken into consideration. These are zeolites. Of course, we have zeolites from Canada, zeolites from India. Fun. The thing with this gallery was we were worried about this shelf system where you have one shelf and another shelf and another shelf. And of course, what happens is when you light from above, you get raking light. So these LED strips here allow the wash to be a little more even and allow no mineral to be in shadow. Yeah.
Fantastic. Really well thought out.
There's a lot of density in this side of the case, this side of the gallery, and you'll notice a distinctive difference. I know Brian and I were talking about sort of the density of minerals, and our, when we were building this gallery, we mocked up these cases, and the designers are like, take 30% out. There's too much. As mineral collectors, we see density in a different way than sort of the art sector does. And so this side of the gallery, we could justify being a little more dense, whereas the other side of the gallery with the Bisbee and sort of the more sort of genetic model types cases have far, far less material in them.
Well, like we talked yesterday, I think a lot of it depends on what you're trying to accomplish in each display. And sometimes you want to focus on individual specimens. Like, is that a kunzite we're looking at there?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Fun.
That's great.
So
density is always an issue.
Yeah. And it detracts. If there's too much in a case, people don't tend to want to stick around. Because their eyes are overwhelmed with things, right? So it's a balance, and trying to always find that balance. Sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you don't. So it is tough. The systematics people tend not to understand so much. Obviously, this is part of the science for us, and understanding how we organize, just like a Linnaean system in biology. But there's people in the gallery right now. They're stopping. They're looking. Which is, always a good thing in the middle of COVID. The last big donation or purchase that we made was 5 years ago, and that was part of our renovation downstairs. It was a $4 million renovation of our collection stores, but as well, it was a purchase of this mineral and geology collection or ore collection from Douglas Kerwin, who was a mining consultant for about 40 years. And so he was very, very focused on the Pacific Rim stuff. So, we've got some fun things. This is one of my favorite things. It's a Spinel coated corundum. What? How does that happen? I mean, painite, albite, glossy little topazes, chymohumites, orbicular granites and diorites, and a whole host of things. And this case is just about, why would you want to be a geologist? How is it exciting? Is it globetrotting? What do you get to see? So And
That's great. I mean, you're educating the younger generation. Now, I know you also have a gem collection, and it looks like that's where we're headed now.
yeah, so this is our gem area. Dun, da, da, da. It's organized based on species. I think people with the gem area, they understand that this is something that's a bit more familiar to them. So the trick here is to draw them in, with sort of low lighting and beautiful looking specimens. This is a big corundum. It's called the Star of Lanka, and it's just under 200 carats. And it's hard to get the star, but sorry,
Oh
guys.
yeah, we could just see kind of a hint of it. And here is another great example of density. You don't want to overwhelm these cases. In this case,
No,
you want that isolated so that your attention is drawn directly to it.
right. So all of these mounts are all, individually made for the objects. What we tried to do in most cases, we have 3 jewelry schools in the city, is to understand what the sort of the breadth of each of these sort of groups are. So, for example, we're looking at corundum. I think people only think of blue as sapphire, and they come in every color under the rainbow. And when we've done this in tourmaline, we've done this in beryl. We have colorless in the middle of the case, which is number 13, which is right under that really big yellow. And from there, you sort of talk about how chemistry is involved. The other part of it is you're putting jewelry pieces in the case, you're putting unset stones, but you're also putting gem crystals in here. So people have this understanding, and what we find with the cleaners when they tell us, everyone wants to touch. The glass is always the foggiest in areas where there's jewelry, because people recognize jewelry first. Unset material is a little harder for people to understand, but then they start making the connection that this Buccellati set of earrings also has rubies in them, which is right beside this. And this is what a ruby looks like if you weren't to cut it. So there's all of our gem cases have all of these 3 materials in them, because we want people to understand there's connection between the raw material that we in the mineral gallery as well as the jewelry that they wear every day.
Brilliant. This is a great example of how a museum can illustrate and educate, and sometimes subliminally, where people may not even realize it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how the visitors use these spaces. So understanding that, tourmalines are fun stones, lots of color, but understanding that there's a colorless variety that people never see. And, I often, and people will shush me on this, but tourmaline is a bit of a garbage can mineral, so there's a lot of different diversity and color.
Okay, well, that's the end of our show. Thank you, folks.
I love them, but they are diverse in terms of their color portfolios, and it's because they substitute like crazy in an environment. So it was a lot of fun putting this room together, because we all robbed Peter to pay Paul. I mean, we were all working on different aspects of the gallery, but I made sure that I got in early and grabbed all the best mineral crystals for this area, because your detailed design in this area has to be good. We're having a hard time focusing on
Now
this
I
case
feel like
because
I've
of
been drinking. Okay.
it's asterism, so it's trying to actually probably try to focus on the cat's eyes, and then it's not be able to. And
Well,
so
they're just going to have to visit the museum live.
they will have to. This collection was really built probably in the 40s and 50s. The mineralogists here didn't understand the appeal of gems, and they put out a really bort, sugar cube diamond from South Africa that was donated, called the Arrington diamond, and people went nuts over it. And then from there, they realized, there's something to this whole gem thing. So Vic Mean had a modest budget. He went around the Indian Ocean and essentially just bought stuff made to order, which was great.
Those are what, hockey rings that we're looking at?
These are the Stanley Cup ring, and to the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup is the tall one. And the other one in front is the 1972 Summit Series ring, which is the Russian versus Canada, which was decided. My focus is not going. Oh, there we go. Which was decided in the last shot in overtime. Wow. It's a Canadian institution. So, we talk about that in the pinnacle of every career, and you look at, Super Bowl rings, they're encrusted with diamonds. We have this association with diamonds and being the best of in sport. And so that it's an interesting conversation to have. And it's something that we probably don't think about. We use diamonds in North America to signify love, where that's not necessarily the case in other parts of the world. And so those kinds of conversations are interesting to have because we're talking about natural history objects and imprinting cultural sort of norms on them. Oh, my focus is going. So these are all collector stones, very odd. This is kind of a catch-all case. But in the top corner, all white gemstones, nightmare for any gemological student.
What does this look like?
White gemstones. Is it a pectolite? Is it an apophyllite? You got to figure it out. Garnets, of course, are popular. And, one of my favorite pieces are, these Brazilian sort of etched ones. I love them so much. They're so distinctive. What's interesting is, and we've just heard in the news, Asbestos Quebec, which is now called something else because no one wants their town to be called asbestos. Right? No, it's true. They just changed the name.
Asbestos.
Yeah. But there is a Canadian locality for demantoid garnets, right? And so we do have quite a few of them in the collection. They're beautiful things.
Now, Katherine, we're kind of getting towards, we're about 3/4 of the show. Instead of playing the videos right now, I'm going to ask that you continue in the gem gallery. The viewers, we're going to go a little bit long because I think some of these videos will be nice to see, but for your time live right now, I want to continue looking at this. Why don't we go back to that split opal that we started with in that case?
Can you imagine being the first person that cracked that in half? What?
Yeah, I know Eloise
right now is
flying the monitor trying to get over there.
Yeah, and they are veneers. It's delicious. And
down, Eloise, down.
They're bigger than my hand, and so when you open them up, you realize the delicate nature of these sort of thin ribbons of precious opal. And what's interesting is we've got a carved opal piece at the back. It's called the Dream Cloud. And I'm sure the mineralogists at the time were like, I don't understand this carved junk, but we're happy, right? It's photographed a lot, and again, it shows sort of rough to cut kind of thing, where you can see that some of her wings are actually some of the bolder opal, so they're carved from similar material, and it just accentuates the piece. We have a lot of black opal, which we're lucky to have. Some of the unusual pieces are like 18 and 19, where I was going into the mineral collection and finding, kind of quasi precious opal, and then finding rough material as well as the cut material. So we are very lucky. The nice thing about Canada as well is we have a what we call Canadian cultural properties. So, if you have pieces in your collection, or for example, number 9 is a black opal ring right here. That's over 10 carats. And Terry Ottaway was here at the time still, and we flipped it over right away to look at the back because we thought, no way is this fully black opal. Well, it is. It's not a doublet. And people donate things, and they'll get 100% of that tax donation against their capital gains for 3 years. So significant pieces in Canada stay in Canada because there's a tax incentive for them to be keeping it in Canada as a Canadian cultural property. So this is gold. This is the backbone of our economy in Canada right now. And with COVID and prices 2,000 an ounce, it's a good time. This is actually a Pioneer Mine piece, and it's as heavy as you think it is, and it's as hackly as you think it is. These pieces down here, they're all Croesus mine pieces, which are from Ontario. These pieces are probably the richest single gold mine in Canada, in Ontario, which sort of graded anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000 ounces a ton. What is interesting for people is for us to explain that if you can see the gold, then it's mineable, as we've seen from the wall, and that we're so desensitized to this because we wear gold jewelry. So we think, oh, we're always going to be able to see gold in this piece up here is a little wire. If you can see it, it's hard to see. It's from Timor. We have a larger wire downstairs.
This is incredible, especially, I'm going to harken back to Terry Wallace's interview that he did with us, where he talked about the cosmic origin of gold and how it was formed on this planet. And looking at an exhibit like this and listening to you talk really kind of brings that into stark contrast. It's incredible.
Thank you. And it's a fun thing. I mean, people, when we take this kind of stuff to like mining conventions, miners, for the most part, do not see visible gold at all through their whole careers, right? Because it's so disseminated. So for them to see gold, it does sort of flick off this sort of weird part of our brain where we're like, oh, these ones are particularly sweet little pieces. They're all in a sort of a very rich black quartz with carbon in it, carbon included. And so it really does pop the gold. And another really fun piece are these two pieces here. The gold actually clogged the bit, and you can see a scar up at the top of this piece right here. That actually, this is where the gold clogged the bit from. So this was the contact piece. Not a bad
that's such a typically Canadian problem. Oh God, the drill bit is clogged again. Let's see what's in it. Oh, it's gold. Yeah,
it's all gold. Yeah,
what a pain.
It's not a bad day when that happens.
Totally. Total first world problem.
I know, totally. And we understand our privilege on that. We do. Yeah. Jade case. So I don't know if everyone knows this, but we've basically, it's our Chinese and immigration from Hong Kong happened in huge numbers before Hong Kong got handed back over to the Chinese. And so Vancouver and Toronto were huge areas where a lot of Asian people from Hong Kong divested their families. And so jade and jadeite is a very large part of our cultures now because of that. These are older pieces. Some of these, as I should mention, are from other parts of our collection. We're one of only 6 museums in the world that do art and culture as well as natural history. So some of these objects are objects like the chrysanthemum mutton fat bowl and that kind of thing are from the Far Eastern collection. We've got a tiki from New Zealand with nephrite, and that is actually from the 4th floor, so it's from another collection. And what makes that such a fascinating thing for us is if you can't grow it, you mine it. And so everything in our collections are either inorganic or organic. And so if there's inorganic material in them, Veronica and the crew downstairs in our analytical lab can tell people where it's from, what it is, in a more in-depth way. So the cultural anthropologists have a better understanding of the objects that they're studying. Diamonds.
Well, that's fascinating.
Diamonds. All of this one's kind of fun right here. It's a Bulgari brooch, and actually it's traveled more than I have. Bulgari had a 125-year anniversary, and there was only 6 of these made. Liz Taylor had a couple of them, but they had a big buy of colored diamonds. And so if you, actually I'm gonna hold my phone, sorry for my hand. If you hit the case, you'll see all of the colored flowers on springs, and they all move.
Hit the case a little harder. Take your shoe off. Go ahead, whack it.
And so beside them, although it's really hard to see, it's the kite-shaped blue diamond that's 6.5 carats. As we know, blues are a little bit dear at the moment. And for obvious reasons, I know Eloise is doing some work on diamonds, and no, you can't have that piece. Type 2 diamonds are not very, they're pretty rare.
6.5 carat blue diamond is something.
6.5 carat blue kite-shaped diamond is something.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think if they lock down Paris, Eloise might head over there to Toronto.
Come on
Taking the first flight available, yes.
Quarantine for 14 days and you're good to go. We only have 200,000 cases of COVID. So
Can she quarantine in the museum?
That's right. She can. She can come stay with my cats and Tanzanite, of course. Donations from Tiffany's, a great crystal, because that's part of all of these displays is marrying crystals, jewelry, and objects. And so if we get close enough, my favorite is 3637. 37 is Tanzanite before they were heating them, before they realized to bring up the color. So we've got old historic pieces. When you look at these pieces, you understand there's some really complex color masking happening in Tanzanite, and it's really hard to get unheated material these days. Beryl, lots of Goshenite and Ukrainian heliodor, a very large 20 carat cut stone, trapeche, the new cesium beryl, of course. And it shows sort of all of the diversity of this. This is kind of a fun piece. This is a very large morganite. And if you look at the offcuts downstairs, they're peach in color. So when they faceted this piece, because it's so deep, it presents more as a morganite now and less of a peach. It's 1,625 carat. And this was actually a mineral specimen, a cleavage mineral specimen in our mineral collection, that they decided they were going to give it a whirl and cut.
Wow, good.
I'm super glad they did. Topaz, large topaz. 17 is one of the ones actually we got and we imaged. Imperial topaz. Lots of heated and unheated. 17 is actually an unheated piece. It's 3,000 carats. And then right next to it, we put spodumene. And number 3, which is this large individual, the 1,800 carat one up here, actually was cut by Sinkankas. Kind of a weird thing. I didn't realize he cut any gemstones, so I was pretty excited when I found that out.
Totally. Hey, I don't think anyone's going to mind that we go long, and that's typically what we do.
I'm just so happy that my battery hasn't kicked in.
Sorry, if you can't hang out, then you got to go. But I'm hanging with Katherine for a while.
So this is sort of the last of it before we sort of end the gallery tour. But there's one more stop. But this is actually, we see tons of Afghani kunzite. This is actually from Brazil. So I was super excited by this piece, only because it's really big. It's got good juicy color, and it's from a locality that, it's not, we are, that is not as prolific and on the market as some of the other stuff that we're seeing. That's the nice thing about a museum, is you start looking at stuff and you realize, this is not from where everything else is coming from right now. So it is fun. We're very weak on chrysoberyl, I'm not gonna lie. We understand that. And this is one of our signature pieces. And it's gonna be hot because of this lighting in here. It's a cerussite from Namibia. It's just under 900 carat. And as we know, cerussite's heat sensitive and vibration sensitive. So the real issue with this is, how do you cut something that is heat sensitive and vibration sensitive and doesn't want to crumble and fall apart? This is one of our signature stones, and it was cut by Maria Atkinson. And yeah, carefully, Alan says. It's got higher dispersion than diamond, which is really hard to sort of get at on camera. But it's a really lovely piece, and it's one of those pieces I hate handling. One of those like, oh God, let's not have a moment today. And peridot as well. Scintillite and peridot. And I think if you look at any gem material, you understand why these are together, even though they're different minerals. Until very recently, analytically, they thought they were just a brown variety of peridot. 2 different minerals, good old science for the win. A lot of the big 3 at the back, so 2, 3, and 4, these large 100+ carat peridots are all Burmese.
Terrific.
Not Pakistan.
Great.
Yeah. So cool, right?
All right, let's take a look at the other half of the gem gallery.
You're kidding me, right? We don't have everything. Well, you're killing me. You're killing me.
Oh my God, that was spectacular.
I'm glad that you guys were able to see it. I think everyone doesn't have a chance to come up to Canada, and I'm happy to sort of toot our own horn. I think, for the most part, we come down to Tucson and you see us and you wave, but, we have a lot of good material up here, and we would urge anyone that was flying into the United States or coming from anywhere to do a stopover in Toronto. It's a lovely city. It's clean. It's got good public transportation, and to come by to the museum and have a look. And if you're not interested in looking just solely at minerals, you can do mummies, you can do dinosaurs. There's so much to see here. So
wonderful. Well, Katherine, I'm going to run some of the video that you sent me from down in the sub basement, your little cave in the world. Do you want to set any of this up? And the reason we're not doing this live, I think this is interesting stuff to see. We always like to see behind the scenes of the museum. The reason we're not doing this live is because you don't have any Wi-Fi connection down there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you want to set this up at all before we start playing these.
Yeah, so we're in the third basement. We have no Wi-Fi. It's a challenge, of course. So for us, everyone wants to see behind the scenes, and I know that's really exciting for collectors. So we thought we would just do little snippets. We have 4 collections downstairs at about 105,000 specimens. The only collection room we didn't go through in all of this was the petrology collection. So you're going to see our main area, our vault, our analytical lab, and our new storage and our mineral storage. So enjoy.
Okay, and then I think while we're doing this, we're going to launch the poll, and we have, I think, 9 clips totaling about 12 minutes. So Katherine, if you can hang around, and we'll do Q&A, and we'll do your responses to the poll at the end of this. So let's go ahead and roll this.
Everyone, and welcome to the third basement of the Royal Interior Museum. We're going to do some short clips of our storage environment, because being in the third basement means that we don't have any cell signal or Wi-Fi signal, so we weren't able to show you the lay of the land down here. So get ready. It'll be a fun time. So this is our main area. And here we have a bunch of just new cases. We're very fortunate that we have had new storage down in the third basement. And these are just the cases that you see as you come into the area, and really represent sort of the 4 collections that we have housed down here, which are minerals, gems and jewelry, petrology or geology specimens, and meteorites. With all things in a museum, large and small, these are prints actually from some of our thin sections of our meteorites that Veronica has done, and of course our big specimen in the back corner. These large specimens obviously are super cool. These were up in our gallery. This is an orbicular granite from Finland, a quartz from Arkansas that was a walk around, do not touch. This is a secondary copper malachite azurite from Phelps Dodge. So this is an Arizona piece and was donated by Phelps Dodge to us. And this is a fun little piece that actually Terry Ottaway and Fred Wicks bought at a Tucson auction in Tucson, I think in the late 90s. One of the offices where we house one of our walk-in vaults, and you'll notice right away on the back wall we have a large phlogopite, which is a bunch of pages from a large book that we have on display upstairs in the gallery, which is from Eau Claire, Ontario, and I will show you that when we head up to our gallery tour. But in this case here, which is kind of fun, is sort of all of these little mineral collections and ephemera that have come in over time. Like who doesn't have a rock concert? This was my first actual mineral collection from Arizona. And I pulled off the petrified wood because at the age of 3, because I thought it was super cool. This is actually amalgamation of boxes of objects or specimens that have come in to the collection in Lucky Strike, this creedite, things like social mixture tobacco, a palm olive that actually had a native copper in it. So we've kept all of those as sort of a cool little ephemera collection from, all of the minerals that have come into the collections. This is the gem area with all of our gem equipment. And then this is the vault, which is gold in color. Inside the vault, it's off, is just sort of an area where we have some display. Some of the carved in balls from spheres from collectors over time, some blue john vase, some vases and large topaz crystal, some carved material. This is one of the Ida Oberstein bowls that were sort of turn of the century that they were making for the trade. And these are neat because they're thin agate that someone sort of hand carved, which is ridiculous. Behind me is a big collection, about 4,000 carats of quartz from Madagascar. So I think GIA and we were the other sort of collectors that bought these sort of sets from this Madagascar gem cutter, which is really a neat thing one year. Gem material, fordite, uranium glass, and of course we have gold, lots and lots of gold. So over here we have a big nugget from Greenville, California. This was owned by a Canadian mining company called McIntyre Porcupine, and they donated 7 of these in the late 50s. We have a Buccellati cuff bracelet. We have a Mystery Wind gold piece. Probably the most special piece for me is this piece here. It's a gold wire from Paymore Mine, which is probably the nicest, I believe, the nicest wire gold from Canada. And then, of course, over here, we have a Croesus gold mine piece, which was a fairly prolific and rich deposit that showed anywhere between 6,000 to 10,000 ounces per ton. It's a pretty profitable little gold mine. Canada has a large history of gold mining. And here is our purple case that holds all of our gem material. Everything is by species. Everything, of course, is labeled. And this collection has about 3,600 pieces in it. 600 of them are up in the gem room on display, which you'll see probably as part of this tour. But in terms of accountability and just understanding where everything's got its place. There's no empty boxes. And if there is an empty box, you know that it's on display in the Golden Gem Room. And, we've been collecting gems for as long as we've had a mineral collection. This is actually a new purchase too. This came in 2015. And it's a suite of sphalerite from all over the world. It's a color suite. Super fun. We love these things. They have huge appeal. And it was funded by an endowment that we have here from Dr. Max Hans Froberg, who is a mining engineer. And it was cut by Marie Atkinson from Terra Minerals. Just acquired over the last 2 years a major collection of worldwide apatite localities for our gem collection, which was really a fun and unique collection. Both of the purchases were sort of donated in part or gifted to us with funds from Louise Hollystone Charitable Trust, which was a large benefactor to the museum. This was the worldwide locality piece, and it shows we just have a sampling of some of the localities out. And then the second purchase, which was the second year, is this stunning apatite from Madagascar. That's 235 plus carats, and it's just stunning. And we just got this within the last year, and we'll have to make some arrangements to put it on display.
Hi, my name is Veronica DeCecco. I'm a mineralogy research technician here at the Royal Ontario Museum, and I'm talking to you from our mineralogy lab in the third basement of the museum. This is where we analyze the rocks, minerals, gems, and meteorites in our collection. We have 3 main machines in this room. We have a single crystal X-ray diffractometer used to identify very small amounts of material or identify things like new minerals and understand the structure of how these species are represented. We also have a powder X-ray diffractometer, which is this machine over here. Slightly larger amount of material can be analyzed. And again, we use it for most of our samples down here. We also have a Raman spectrometer, so that's non-destructive. It uses a laser to identify the material based on its structure as well. And we can identify things from hand sample to thin section.
To our dry environment. So this room is at 25% RH. We keep all of our sulfides and sulfur salts in here, as well as large meteorites. Anything that looks like it's having a hard day because of fluctuating humidity in Toronto. As you can see over here in the corner, this big guy is actually a chunk of 3 parts of a black smoker. This was a project that the American Museum of Natural History did for the Geology Gallery, and so they have a smoker and then harvested a black smoker for us. These were harvested from the Juan de Fuca Plate, which is just off the coast of Vancouver Island. And it stands about 6.5 feet tall. And if you know anything about black smokers, they form under pressure temperatures that are not like the pressure temperatures that we have on Earth or on surface, and so they're unhappy when you bring them up. So this dry room is a great environment for them to keep them intact. Down this section here is all of our meteorites, and because of the added security in here, but also because of the dry environment, it actually is a great great place to actually store all of them. And then we have sort of all of our sulfides in here being very, very happy. And I'll open a drawer and pull one out. As you know, has a tradition of silver mining. Just north of the city, Cobalt, of course, was a major historic silver producer. And what's great about this, and what people don't know is, which is something that's super hard to put out, is there was a lot of proustite crystals from this locality because of the sensitive nature of the mineral being really reactive to light. We're not able to actually pull them out on display very often, so this is kind of a neat way. This is a Keeley mine piece to show you sort of the gemmy kind of quality of these pieces without putting them out on display. I actually love looking at these little guys. They're so cute. And I'm happy to show everyone all of these because they just never get to go out. This is an O'Brien piece. It's just stunning. This is the main collection stores for mineralogy. We have 22 rows of cabinets. Each one of them is compact storage. And with that, each one of them is obviously divided by just in a data classification system. So within each row, you get minerals depending on where you are. So these are gypsums from Italy and not from Italy. These are oversized Canadian gypsums, and on and on and on. Everything is ethafoamed. The doors and drawers lock out, so you can't pull a specimen out too fast. And everything glides regardless of how heavy the specimens are. We're very fortunate to have this store.
Wow, what a great tour inside the inner workings of what makes the ROM happen, at least the mineral portion of the ROM. Katherine, thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate that. Are we back? Okay, I think Katherine's on.
Yep.
Okay, there she is.
My video cannot start your video because the host has stopped it, but they can hear me. That's good.
Okay. Well, I'm being told by our executive producers that we don't have time for questions because we're now about 17 minutes over. But you've been kind enough to allow us to send your email out to everybody. So if anyone has questions,
Yep.
you can email Katherine directly. But we do have time, I believe, for the 5 questions. So I believe the poll is finished. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. I do.
Yes, it's all good. And Katherine, you should be able to turn your camera back on now.
Yes, try.
Loop. Let's see. Allow. There we go. Yay, I'm in my office with no mask. Yay.
And no mask. Let's spotlight her because people don't need to see me. There we go.
Yay. Gem vault in the back. Everyone knows now what the deal is down here.
Fantastic. So, Katherine, you know the way that this works. I've got 5 questions I'm going to lay on you, and everybody has already answered the poll. They've guessed what you're going to guess, and now we're going to learn what your preference is.
Okay.
2 answers, just gut reaction on one or the other. Okay. Here we go. There are no wrong answers for you. Every answer you have is the correct answer. So, question number 1. Cats or dogs?
Cats. If anyone's been on my Facebook, it's all cats.
Question number 2. Margarita on the beach or mulled wine in the mountains?
I am a beach margarita girl, and anyone that's been to Tucson with me understands that.
Margaritaville. Okay, question number 3. Trader Joe's or Whole Foods?
Ooh. I would have to say Trader Joe's only because it's more special because it's a Tucson experience. We have a Whole Foods about 10 minutes from the museum, so it's like whole paychecks. So yeah, Trader Joe's all the way.
Do you have Trader Joe's up there in Canada?
No. So the closest one we have is Buffalo, New York, which is about 90 minutes drive from Toronto. We're very close to the New York border. And everyone in Toronto goes to the Trader Joe's in Buffalo, so it looks like Cold War Russia in that store.
We don't have a Trader Joe's in Hawaii, so fortunately I get free baggage on Delta, so I'm always coming home with bags full of Trader Joe products. So I get your pain.
Yeah, everyone.
Okay. Question number 4. High heels or heavy boots?
Ooh. That's a tough one because I like both, but I'm going to go with high heels for now.
High heels. And the last and final question. Frida Kahlo or Gustav Klimt?
Oh my God. Anyone that knows me, I do Frida Fridays. Like my pilgrimage was supposed to be like this week. I was supposed to be going down to Mexico City and then Oaxaca City to do Dia de Muertos. So it's sad that we didn't get to see the Blue House this time, but we've got it booked for a year from now. So with my Ohana from San Diego, Mrs. Mackenzie Santimer.
We
so
love Mac. I can't wait to
yeah,
get the show.
so that was our trip. But next year, friends, next year. No
Next year.
Toludas for me. That's what Peter says. He knows that I have a serious Mexican Yayuta addiction. So
Well, 2022 is going to come back roaring, I'm sure.
yeah.
Okay, so Eloise, let's see what everyone had to say. Question number 1, cats or dogs?
Yes, cats, of course, cats.
Ding, 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 ding. Sounds like people know Katherine. Question number 2, Margarita on the beach or mulled wine in the mountain?
You know what? It was a tough one. I've got a 50-50 on Margarita and mulled wine. You know, like that means that people didn't go to Tucson with Katherine, obviously, because that was an obvious question answer there.
Okay, so we'll just pass on that. Trader Joe's or Whole Foods?
Got a 50-50 again. It's crazy.
We've never had 2 50-50s before. That would be 100%.
I both,
question
so
number 4, high heels or heavy boots? This to me is very interesting.
Well, heavy boots. And you know what? I would have answered like everybody else with heavy boots. because we had long discussions about heavy boots with Catherine, but never about high heels. So I guess
it's because Canadians are forced to wear boots. It's interesting to see like people in California wear Uggs and think it's fun, but you're like, no, we wear boots because we have to wear boots. And when you don't have to wear them, you don't want to wear them again.
That's yeah.
It's becoming a cultural thing now. Okay. And the last one, Frida or Klimt?
Yeah, Frida. Yes.
Frida.
100%.
Yes. I knew. Okay. So we got 2 correct, 2 50-50s, and 1 incorrect. So everybody, now you know, next time you see Katherine in Tucson, you know what to do. You know what to buy her. Buy her a beer, buy her a margarita, and talk to her about Frida. So
yeah, margarita from Trader Joe's. That works as well.
Yeah.
Margarita from Trader Joe's?
Yes, margarita and tequila from Trader Joe's, I'm telling you. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
I know you're a Trader Joe's fanatic, so I'll go with you. Okay, well, that's going to wrap up our show. Thank you, everybody, for being so patient. Again, sorry for going over. It's typical with us. We get so excited about what we're seeing that we just cannot cut it short. So we are now coming upon 25 minutes over the hour. So thank you, all of you, for tuning in today. Check us out tomorrow on the Blue Cap Productions YouTube channel. We're going to be releasing our interview with Stefan Nicolescu from the Yale Peabody Museum, originally aired back on September 30th. That was a great episode. So that will be going live tomorrow, and we'll be making the announcement on our Facebook and not YouTube, Instagram channels. Also, tune in next week. We're going to have Emanuele Marini, who is the founder of Mineral Labs, with us. And, that was actually the old photo. I have a new, better photo of Emanuele that we'll put up later today or tomorrow when the registration page is up. But do set your calendar for that. That's going to be a fun episode. We're going to look at minerals in the before state and the after state, and Emanuele will be broadcasting live from Milano. So again, Katherine, thank you so much for spending this almost hour and a half with us. Really appreciate all that you did. Really appreciate the videos that you shot for us yesterday, and for just sharing your passion with us.
Thank you so much for allowing us the time, and everyone's welcome. Come to Canada.
All right. And so for all of you viewers out there, thank you very much for joining us again today here at Minerals Talks Live.
Guys.
There we got La Bruja waving to everyone with the pumpkins. That's
I'm
Catherine.
I love the tour. Beautiful.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you again next week. Aloha.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.